The only real financial challenge that we've faced so far is that the need for financial aid for this class that came in is much larger than it typically has been in the past. And that's no real surprise. So the extra revenue that comes from the 80 extra students is pretty much spoken for by the fact that all 930 of them, on average, needed much more substantial financial aid awards to come to WPI. That will be a challenge as we go forward because this economy is not going to recover as quickly as we wish it would, and people are not going to go back to work as quickly as we wish they would. So the second challenge we will face, in addition to the declining endowment draw, will be this continuing pressure on families for financial aid. But we're well positioned to meet that. As I said, we got through this without having to lay anybody off. We hired a whole bunch of new faculty, and we're searching again for next year. The provost has just authorized 19 searches for new faculty to join WPI next fall, and so we continue to invest very appropriately and very significantly in the quality of our academic programs and our academic staff. I did appoint a presidential commission on effectiveness and efficiency and charged them with looking across WPI at all the ways that we could find to operate more efficiently and more effectively to reduce our cost, because this pressure on higher education is going to continue as we go forward. We can't raise tuition at the rates it has been raised in the past, even though WPI's tuition increases have been kept considerably below the national averages. The pressures are going to continue on us. We only raised tuition by 2.9%. For this past year. I want to keep those increases as low as we can going forward, but we have to reward our faculty and staff and keep their compensation at competitive levels, and we have been investing especially in our full professors' compensation because as we look at the comparable data across the nation at similar kinds of institutions, our full professors are not being paid at a level they ought to be. So as we go forward, we will continue to make additional investments because it's a terrific faculty, and we want to make sure that we keep them all with us. So, yes, that short answer that I gave you at the beginning, the state of WPI is good, is really a true statement, and I'm very pleased and proud to be able to tell you that and to thank you for all the support that many of you continue to provide in the forms of contributions to scholarship funds in particular that help these worthy students as we move forward. I'm pleased also to report to you that the academic programs continue to develop in very interesting ways. We have a new set of freshman seminars. They're called the Great Problem Seminars. And the goal of these seminars is to introduce entering students right away to some of the big challenges in life and in the world that they will encounter going forward once they have their WPI degrees, so that they understand from day one they have the ability to think creatively and to work cooperatively in teams to take a bite out of some of these big problems and really get a grip on how they can make a lasting contribution in the world once they leave WPI. There are 4 such seminars that run. They're called Feed the World, Power the World, Heal the World, and Building the World. And the titles are very self-explanatory, and the students work in small project teams under the advice of faculty that are very keenly committed to this new kind of first-year education at WPI. And so once again, WPI is setting the tone and the standard for American higher education in the way we have brought this new part of the WPI experience right down to the very first term that students are with us on campus. The robotics program at WPI is now several years old. Remember, we were the first American university to introduce an undergraduate engineering robotics program, and it is wildly popular, fueled in part by the interest that students develop in the first robotics programs that they encounter in middle schools and in high schools. And WPI, from the founding of First Robotics, because it was founded by our alumnus Dean Kamen, has been at the table shaping that important program nationally and contributing in very, very visible ways to the development of robotics programs for students in middle school and high school. Well, now we have a very well-developed robotics program at WPI. That's really not a surprise, but what's so impressive is how quickly it has gained national notoriety. Some of you may have noticed on New England Cable News a wonderful little clip in the last few days about a robotics team from WPI that competed in NASA's Grand Challenge, for which the top prize was $500,000, $500,000, for a team that could produce a robot capable of scooping up moon dirt, basically, regolith it's called, but it's moon dirt, and putting it in a container. And why is NASA interested in that? Because as NASA thinks longer term about its strategy in space, it would like to have launching stations on the moon to make the moon an operating tactical part of outer space exploration. So we need to go to the moon, and we need to be able to construct buildings, just like we do on the Earth. And the way you start is you start to dig so you can pour a foundation. Well, this competition's been going on for 3 years, and no robot has actually even succeeded in meeting the minimum requirements for moving the regolith. So a group of WPI students, staff, and alumni put together a robot called Moonraker, I think, is that right? That went to California with sponsorship from a number of companies from WPI and won first place in that competition. Took the first prize, in which there were 20-some competitors from prominent universities and from aerospace companies and from the who's who of robotics, and WPI's team came in first place. I think that's appropriate recognition, but there's more to the story, as they sometimes say. There were 3 prizes in all. The second and third place teams each also had one WPI alumnus on them. So this thing is viral. We own robotics. WPI is finally taking its place, right? The chair of the computer science department and the head of the robotics program, who is one and the same, is over here smiling from ear to ear as he should be. So Mike Jenert, congratulations on everything you're accomplishing. It's not a surprise to know that environmental engineering and environmental studies are of great interest to our students, and we have new programs in those areas that are interdisciplinary. They cut across civil engineering and chemical engineering and other areas that are relevant to those. Interdisciplinary programs are very popular with our students and with our faculty at WPI, and as you know, it's the perfect culture for encouraging cross-disciplinary and interdisciplinary work. But let's not forget about the humanities and arts, and let me tell you that we awarded our first Bachelor of Arts degree at our most recent commencement just this past spring. And that is a reminder of how important the humanities are to our students, including those who study engineering and science. And one of the most impressive things that I saw happening on this campus so far this fall, in addition to the robotics competition, was a marvelous production of South Pacific. The musical South Pacific was performed in Alden Memorial 4 weeks after a term opened. And just think about what is required of a group of students to produce a huge musical like that with a complete orchestra, with wonderful singing, and with great choreography, because that is not a simple musical to perform. People are spinning and dancing and moving across the stage. It's a wonderful example of the great creative abilities of our students, and I was very proud of them on that occasion. I want to say just a little bit about our faculty because, of course, it's a very distinguished and very devoted faculty. There was a special note of distinction recently because Professor Duran Apelian of our Mechanical Engineering Department and the head of our Metal Processing Institute and the former provost at WPI was awarded membership in the National Academy of Engineering. That is our first faculty member to achieve that distinction while actively serving. The National Academy of Engineering, like the National Academy of Science and the Institute of Medicine, are the 3 national agencies that are there for the purpose of advising the administration and the president on science and medical and engineering policy in this nation. So it's a great honor to be so initiated, and Professor Apelian is most distinguished for that award.